Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to BWTM News and Entertainment. We have a very special guest all the way from Texas joining us once again. We have us Brian K. Moore, better known as Kenny Moore, the former manager of Destiny's Child. Kenny, how are we doing?
I'm doing well, Ingram. How are you?
It's
great to be back.
It's great to have you back on the channel. God, there's so much for us to talk about. I mean, where do I begin with this? Well, first, I think the last time we spoke, as we were ending our interview, news came through from the world of Hollywood that Prince had passed away. So it was quite a shock at the time. Your thoughts?
Oh, it definitely was, and it was a great loss. One of my all-time favorites, no doubt. Probably I would think, the greatest musician that I've ever seen. And just a horrible loss.
Okay, so for those people who are not acquainted to who you are, give people a rundown as to who you are.
Wow, I haven't been asked that question in a long time now. Well, I'm Brian Kenneth Moore, former manager and co-creator of Destiny Child. Managed the girls from 1989 all the way to 1998, the beginning of the first album. And then I went off into technology and did some things. And as things would turn out, I happened to return to kind of try to tell the story that was omitted, the Andretta Tillman story. And I wrote 2 books now, and we just finished and released a documentary on Amazon Direct. So we got some big things coming. Looking forward to, we're starting to shop the screenplay now for to do the movie. So, we're very excited about that.
Now, there are many question marks because according to Matthew Knowles, he ran the ship. He was the reason why Destiny's Child was or is the way they are today. However, you've got a different opinion of this. Can you kind of say your side of the story?
Well, I think the easiest way, without, trying to bash or anything like that, Matthew and I and the other members, the producers and things like that, we were a part of a team that Andretta put together. And she was the mastermind behind everything that happened. She was the mastermind by getting the contract, the Sony deal, and all the other deals. Matthew took over after she passed in 1997. And that's where really I think we differentiate, because he tells the story as if he started back in 1889 and 92 after the Star Search and things. But it was really Andretta's guiding and her vision that created Destiny Child. In fact, in the documentary that we've just done, we were privileged to, excuse me, privileged to get some footage from the Andretta Tillman estate, where it shows even back in the early 90s, Beyonce, what you see her doing on stage now, she's doing then. And the girls were doing a lot of dancing, a lot of movement, videos behind the actual performance, the very thing you see today on Beyonce shows. And it shows all the way back in 1992 that Andretta was guiding that, and she gave that foundation and showed them, the route. So we were just fortunate to be along for the journey. We learned a lot from her. And the way the story should have gone is that after she passed, Matthew picked up the mantle and ran with it and did a great job.
So why is Andretta Tillman seems to be omitted from the actual history of Destiny's Child?
Well, I think when it started originally, the girls never forgot, because their first award they ever won, they dedicated that award to Andretta. The first 2 albums, One Song of Peace was dedicated to her. But I think after stardom came and started to grow a lot, that, vanity kicks in. I mean, and that's a very delicate place. A person don't think you're changing, but you actually are. And once vanity kicks in, then, the story changes. And then you start to believe what you have said. And then 20 years later, you're telling a completely different story. So we wanted to just correct the early years, correct how it really happened, who's really the mastermind behind it, and give her credit, long deserved credit that she has not received yet.
Let's talk about the contracts and how great Andretta Tillman actually was, and why she was the founder or the establishing point for the girls' success, which then Matthew Knowles ran with after Andretta put all the work in.
Well, the contracts, I mean, the documentary shows, and one thing we didn't want to do is have an opinion from just say me. So what we did was we gathered all the other artists that she had helped out of the Houston area. We gathered her family and different people that had firsthand experience, as well as the old original members of Girls Tyme, Nick and Nina Taylor. And we just wanted to give a complete story of what happened, how it transpired. Nikki and Nina speaks for the first time of them leaving the group, going from it being a 6-girl group down to 4. We discussed Tamar Davis, who was on The Voice last year, the impact it had on the girls, and LaToya Luckett coming into the group. So it's a lot of things that were discussed in the documentary. And as far as the contract, it's just, you'll learn that Andretta was just the mastermind. I mean, a lot of the contracts, even a Sony contract, in the end, had Matthew had to go look for the contracts. He didn't negotiate anything. He didn't have the contracts, and we actually have people there that he got the contract from talking about the transaction. So I mean, the documentary, we just let it go and let it flow and let the truth come out. So I mean, as I say, if you want to tell the story and take credit from the day she died in 1997, and you picked up the mantle then. But any credit before then, everybody was participants. She was the mastermind behind it.
So what you're basically telling me and telling the world is that without an Andretta Tillman, there would be no Destiny's Child.
What I'm telling you is without an Andretta Tillman, there would not be a Beyonce nor Destiny Child. There may have been a Beyonce Knowles as a solo artist, struggling coming up through Houston. But without Andretta's money, without Andretta know-how, without Andretta connections, we wouldn't have got anywhere. I mean, the fact the girls, there was a larger group that was created before Andretta even came in. And because the managers, Deb and Denise, that they didn't have the wherewithal to take them any further, Andretta then formed it down to a 6-girl group, to where she had an idea how to make it happen. And she made it happen. I mean, from Star Search to everything. I mean, we recorded, a lot of people didn't know, we recorded an entire album even before the first album, the No album, and Andretta's dime.
Wow. So again, I keep going back to what Matthew said and trying to bring it back to the documentary. Matthew said, he was quoted in saying that Beyonce was in the fold, but then he felt he had to get into the fold and get involved, and he went and researched, and then that's how he got into the music industry, and he went to college or he went to university and he studied, and that's how he got into the music industry. Your take on things from what you saw?
Well, the only college I went to, I'm going to put it this way. When I came in, Andretta said, if I'm going to manage with them, I needed to learn the industry. So she gave me a book, Music Industry 101, and said, go learn it. And from what I know, she did the same thing when Matthew kind of forced his way in, using Beyonce as leverage or taking her out the group as leverage. She passed that on to him. And, you know, it was nothing for him to come by every day to try to see paperwork and see who she's talking to and things of that nature. I mean, it got so bad that she actually had to get an assistant that lived outside her house to keep paperwork and everything. So that's why Matthew never had any paperwork until she passed.
Wow.
So, I mean, see, here it's easy when you've got the propaganda machine behind you, you told the story and everybody believes it. But, the fact, if you're the manager and you controlling all this thing, I had to master recordings or had access to them. He had to come in the no master recordings. He had to get them from me. Then the actual contract that the girls had with Sony was given to him by, another player that talks about it in the documentary. So, I mean, it's a lot of things that are just the facts. I mean, it's nothing good. I was asked last night in another interview how I felt about Beyonce. I was like, that's my baby. I love Beyonce. I love all my girls. I mean, what happened with grown people had nothing to do with our love or lack of love for each other and what we accomplished. So, it's just telling, like I said, the Andretta piece. And now, life has totally changed and we just take it as it comes.
How does Andretta's Tillman's family feel that she has almost been snubbed and wiped out of Destiny Child's sort of like history? Even though we know that the history is that, the celebration of Andretta Tillman should be so much more. But Matthew Knowles is getting that celebration.
Right. Well, the one thing, by being the executive producer of the documentary, I did not want, these people have been silent for 20 years. They haven't been able to tell their sister story. Nick and Nina wasn't able to tell their story. Flodge wasn't able to tell their story. Super producer Corey Moe, nobody knew that Andretta was the mastermind behind his success. Gospel great Kathy Taylor, Andretta was, so she had a whole stable. And, we even have the story of our group Taste being in the actual studio, and right across the hall is H-Town. And, the story of Luke Campbell coming, trying to make a decision on which one of the groups he was going to take, So, I mean, it's just a lot of history in the documentary that we wanted to concentrate on. And we just wanted to, give those voices that had never been heard an opportunity to speak. And so that's what we did.
Now, again, media is very powerful. The story is that Destiny's Child is Beyonce and then those other girls. What's your opinion on this?
Destiny Child is all the girls. They were a family. I mean, Beyonce got better because the other girls that they pushed her. There was to me in the early days, Nikki Taylor was by far the best dancer in the group, but she was what Beyonce needed to push her to perfect her craft in the dance. And so they pushed each other. I mean, you're talking about a sisterhood, a tight-knit family that, did everything together. So where Beyonce is now is a direct result of the tutelage and the learning that she went through. Yes, her mom and daddy played a part. Andretta played a key part, and the girls played a part in driving her to become the queen.
Okay.
You can't have one without the others. I'll use Joe Jackson phrase. There can't be a Michael Jackson without the Jackson 5. So there can't be a Beyonce Knowles without Destiny Child.
Well, according to Matthew Knowles, once again, Matthew Knowles has made a quote and said, well, basically, the reason why Beyonce is as successful as she is because she's light-skinned. And he used examples like Rihanna and Mariah Carey, Nicki Minaj as black women who are lighter skinned and they're favored more in the pop industry. What's your thoughts about that?
Wow. Well, now I'll say this, I'm not going to, through history, if you look at the African American artists, most of your successful artists were fairer skinned because it was more easier for the crossover to happen. But then you do have your exceptions of the Otis Reddings and people like that their voice and the Al Greens just transcended, and Aretha even, that transcended the, I would say, semi-prejudice of listening to those artists. As far as, I can't agree with him that because she's light-skinned, that B's talent was, B was a beast at 9. You had a 9-year-old girl that literally, we're in the studio and can go note for note for Michael Jackson, to the letter. And you're sitting there watching her, and it's effortless. So to downplay their talent based on the skin color, I can't agree with that. The girl is fabulous. She's, she earned her way. She paid her way, and so somebody to say something like that, to discredit her hard effort and all the girls' effort, I don't agree with that.
But then people would say, okay, Kenny, fair enough. But Michelle Williams and Kelly Rowland are not celebrated in the same way that Beyonce is. Is that down to colorism?
I think that's down to who had the better songs. If Kelly had those type songs, those type hits, she was celebrated. I mean, the hit Kelly had with Nelly was no slouch. Now she was celebrated, and it carried over. So I mean, it's just a matter of Beyonce having the craft of being able to write their songs and deliver them. And Kelly and Michelle, Kelly never had that pressure. B had the pressure from the beginning. Kelly had the pressure to just make sure her harmony was tight and she didn't cross them 2 feet that she had and mess up the dance routines. That was Kelly hang up. And then you grab the mic every now and then. Once Tamar left, now Kelly, you get up front some. That was it. B always had the hammer. So now then to go and say, okay, I expect you, now to step out front into that main platform and be compatible to Beyonce, when Beyonce, had done this her whole life, just like Michael and Jermaine. Jermaine had great hits. All the Jacksons had, some decent songs, but Michael had been doing it a lot longer, and so you can't compare the two.
Another thing, I know you said to me before that Beyonce wasn't the original lead singer of Destiny's Child, but
B was not. B was not the. I mean, she sung lead, but Tamar Davis was the original lead singer. She was the hammer. What happened was, when we went to California to the plant, and we were in the studio, there was one particular song that she was struggling with. And Beyonce was sitting beside me, and she was just like fidgeting. And I was like, look, girl, will you quit moving so much, and Ann had a strict rule, her and Lonnie, the producer, that nobody said anything through a session. But Beyonce would not quit moving. So I'm sitting there like, B, what is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And so I finally realized, I said, B, can you do it? She's like, yes, sir. And that little squeaky little voice of hers. And I was like, now, B, if I stop this session, they straight finna cuss me out. I said, now, you cannot mess this up. She said, I won't, Uncle. I said, all right. And I leaned over Ann, and the cursing started, and, I took the abuse. And then I was like, hey, let B do it. Let B do it. And lo and behold, she went in, first take, bam. And I mind you, we had already recorded like 6 songs with Tamar on the lead. All of a sudden, Lonnie, the producer, he started dumping the tracks. Beyonce, go get the lead on this. And so when we went out there as Tamar as the lead singer and Beyonce is the second lead singer accompanying her, we came back with Beyonce, the lead singer, and Tamar doing background. So we had to explain that to the parents that, we left one way, but B took the opportunity and ran. And I mean, you're paying that type of money, you come back with the best you can. And she was the best, and she never relinquished.
Okay, let's go through the departures of Destiny's Child. Well, before it got to where it is today, or where the 4 girls were at the end. talk to us about the other departures, the people that were together and then got kind of one way or the other left the group or got dismissed or whatever, and clear up the rumors and hear from your perspective what happened.
Okay, so starting with Girls' Time.
Yes.
So with Tamar, when we came back, what I was just explaining, her mother did not take too kindly to her daughter not being the lead singer. Through conversations and different things that she was still going to get out front. She still didn't want that. So they took it upon themselves to take her out the group. Now, Andretta, being Andretta, was still committed to the girls. So she did a side deal and managed Tamar by herself. So early on, the song when Tamar was singing when she was younger, Andretta submitted Tamar's demo to Prince. So that was the first time Prince had ever heard of Tamar. And, ultimately, they got together later on. So that was one thing. Now, the other thing that was never known behind the scene was when Matthew came to become part of management, he knew of the side deal that Andretta had with Tamar. So his pressure was not only that you're going to let me help you manage the girls, you're going to also give me some of the percentages of management you have on Tamar, even after she left the group. So Anne is in a bind. She spent a lot of money. She's got lupus and everything, and we're getting closer. So she agreed. So that was a side contract that Matthew had forced his way in on to actually manage Tamar unknowingly to Tamar. So then next came, LaToya came into the group. So when LaToya came in, her mother Pam came in already once she made the group, wanting LaToya to be able to do more things, not just be a singer in Girls' Time or Destiny Child. She wanted her to act, and Anne and I respected that. But Anne had, the bottom line is, you're either part of it or you're not. So they kind of put the block in. But Pam was always, and I'm going to segue to where it's going, Pam was always going the legal route, trying to see how she could get LaToya to do some acting, because that's what Toya wanted to do as well as sing, which she's doing now, which I'm very proud of that. So once Toya came in, then we got the Electra deal. Well, Daryl Simmons decided that they only wanted 4 girls. So now Nikki Nina Taylor, who in the documentary talking about this, and I won't elaborate too much, they leave. They're kicked out the group. But Anne, being Anne, didn't want the girls broke up. So she was going to have them, once the girls signed their 4-part deal, the girls would come back and be background singers, dancers. So they would all be back together anyway. So it was ultimately going to be 6 again. Then it's down to 4. We lose the Electra deal. We do the grassroots deal with Dwayne Wiggins, and it's negotiate the Sony deal. So now we get the Sony deal. Mind you, now when Andretta, here's what I pretty sure happened. When Andretta passed, I leave. Well, you still have Pam here that still wanted to try to find some freedom for LaToya. LaToya and Latavia are close now because they're starting to believe that maybe Matthew is being unfair. And from there, that same little playing that was okay when Andretta was there, Matthew wouldn't tolerate it. Thus, he kicked him out the group. But because the same little thing that they could get away with when Ann was there, because she would calm it down. Okay, Pam, you can't do this. LaToya won't be able to do that, and that's fine. Have your little argument, whatever. I personally believe that Matthew, that was his opportunity to shake the tree loose and to free B. So he took the opportunity when that card was played again.
Now, Matthew has also been quite open and honest about him being a colorist. He says that he only married his wife because he thought she was white. and where he was, where he grew up, he felt that he was influenced by just dating white women or women that have lighter skin. Do you feel that when you're around Matthew Knowles, and I don't know how much you know about his personal life, but do you feel that he was a colorist or was looking at those girls who were of darker skin in any more discriminatory way than B, who was lighter skinned?
Well, I said I'm going to be honest. Well, from some of the episodes that I do know of, he did like the fair skinned women. So I'll leave it at that, and from the incidents that I was privy to, he did like a fair skinned woman. I'll say that.
Is that being politically correct?
No, I'm not being. He liked a light skinned woman. I ain't trying to be politically correct. I'm just telling you the facts. I was just trying to say it proper, but he liked I can go back to my Mississippi roots. He liked a light skinned gal.
Yes.
So from what I remember.
So okay, so now he comes out and talks about colorism. He basically said, like I said, about the Beyonce thing. He thinks that darker skinned women get dark skinned black women get a raw deal in the pop music industry. And then he comes out and then produces a new girl band called Blush. Have you seen Blush?
Yeah, I've seen.
And have you noticed that they all are lighter skinned?
Well, I don't think their light skin is their issue. Me personally.
What is it then? Are you going to say talent?
Oh, definitely. Oh, listen. Lightning strikes very rarely. You can't have a formula that works and have the mad scientists to die off and then expect to be able to go recreate that. So that's why I don't run around trying to manage acts and find the next Beyonce and things of that nature. It was a formula, and I often say, and I proudly say, I mean, other than artists that were already established, who has he produced other than who Andretta had?
It's a good question.
No, that's a question. I mean, if you're going to ask the question, ask the question. Who has he created or produced that were not already established? Yeah, he got the OJs on his label. He had Trinity 357, but they were already established acts. Earth, Wind, and Fire. All these acts already had hits. Who has he created or made things happen for other than what Andretta had already created?
So you're suggesting that a Blush might not be, he's looking for the next Destiny's Child. Do they have?
For my opinion, and working with the girls that I work with Destiny Child and Girls Tyme, there's nowhere near the talent. I mean, it's almost an insult to even mention them in the same name. That's just my opinion.
Okay, so I also find it quite ironic because the document is quite recently been released, and Matthew Knowles has popped up once again, and he's talking and talking. He's got a new book out about colorism. Do you think that he is trying to once again, almost by him coming out and being so vocal, they kind of like trying to keep himself, I don't use the word relevant, but keep the dream alive that he was the one behind Destiny's Child? So he comes out every so often and says, yep, it's me. I'm the guy behind it. Look at me. I've got a book coming out. I've got a band here. Look, I can produce, and I've got a book. This is me.
No, Matthew's always been a great marketer. I mean, I'll give him credit where credit is due. He's always been great at marketing. So, I mean, if you see an upswell that's happening, what do? You put a preemptive strike out and you say, okay, hey, while he's picking your pocket over here, look the other way. So when it comes to the documentary or the book, I just feel that there's an effort there to just say, okay, hey, don't look there, look over here. We don't want you to pay attention to what's really going on over there. But the great thing about it, I mean, I did this out of love and out of a commitment to a friend. So the notoriety and all those different things don't matter. The one thing that I think that has been underestimated was that how well Andretta had taught us. I've been in technology 20 years prior to this, but now I've come out, written 2 books, done a movie, getting ready to do another movie, doing a screenplay, and I hadn't been around the industry in 20 something years. So the learning that she gave us was true. And so if they think it's going away or it's just going to die, it's not going to. It's just going to, one person at a time. You have the masses now, but we'll get a story out. So I don't think twice about it.
So what do you think the agenda is, or the strategy or the plan to ensure that this story is suppressed, and that the story that all the dialogue that Matthew Knowles is the man behind Destiny's Child, and let's keep Andretta Tillman quiet, let's not mention that about, why is that not being taken up by media in the way it should be?
Well, I don't know why, but I do know that a lot of the media that over these last 2 years that I've spoken with that wrote the stories or whatever, they're either not with the outlets anymore or doing something else. But found it strange. And I spoke with one young lady and I asked her, after she had left one of the publications that printed, a decent story about us. And it was basically, you either get the story from Beyonce and her camp, or you write something else and you never get anything else. So, and I think her value had gone away. So that's the way I see it. I mean, it came back to me. So, but that really, that really don't matter. I mean, the story's out there. It's there for people to go get and see, and they'll have their own opinion. And and the biggest hurdle I think is that people are so prejudiced that they think that automatically, if it's not coming from Beyonce, it's something bad against her. You're either with us or you're against us, instead of wanting to know, hey, here's the truth of what really happened. So that's kind of where we sit. But like I said, I'm a very spiritual guy, and and in God's time, everything will come into fruition.
You remember the time when we did the interview and you released the book, it came back that Beyonce was disappointed with reports from the book. How do you respond to that now in 2018?
Well, I think if B was I know that probably wasn't true, but David Brewer, the vocal coach, he just released a rather scathing book. And my book, when I wrote it, like I say, it's not about vendetta. It's not about getting back at anybody. It was just, hey guys, here's the lady, and her sacrifices is why you get to celebrate Queen Bee and Destiny Child. That's what, and this is a story that happened. Like I told an interview I did a couple of nights ago, when the Destiny Child story is done, I mean, I've already written the screenplay and we're starting to submit what we have. But I mean, I'm not opposed to Matthew, Beyonce, David Brewer, and the whole clique coming back together and say, okay, hey, here's the story. This is what we're going to tell it. I mean, it's just one collective story. I'm not opposed to that. My only thing is you just can't omit and make up, history. That's my only point. She did what she did. She helped what she helped. I mean, look, a lot of people overlook the fact that when she died, Beyonce said that she's her guardian angel. That was in her writing, her words that she put on the album. So how can she be omitted? How can you not honestly want to examine who this person is?
Do you know the reasons why Beyonce eventually sacked Matthew Knowles?
Well, there are, so the way the contracts were written back then, the trademark and all that played into the group. So knowing the contracts that I have possession of, when Latavia and Latoya left the group and Matthew, say, brought Michelle in, there was a fourth part. So the reason Destiny Child don't you reunite as Destiny Child is because when they reunite as Destiny Child, that fourth dollar goes to Matthew Knowles.
Ooh.
See, that's one thing. So that's one reason why they're talking about doing a DC3 or, you know, changing the name, because anytime they're together as a three, Matthew gets a dollar. So if it's $4, Michelle won, Beyonce won. Well, you know, B get a lot more, but yeah. If Michelle won, Beyonce won, Kelly won, that fourth member money goes to Matthew.
Wow, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and they don't. And then the other thing that the documentary talks about is, so Andretta had a contract, a lifetime contract with Destiny Child that was called the Texas Boys contract, which gave her boys a point apiece of whatever revenue Destiny Child made. Now, this was a contract that was in question that supposedly Andretta had signed away on her deathbed. But there are family members and everybody else, because in the trial, the lawsuit of the boys against them, Tina and them could not produce it. And their answer to the judge was they lost it in a move. But now the family members are saying she never signed that contract. So a reunited Destiny Child will, let me say, possibly have some repercussions to that lawsuit coming back as well.
So that's the reason why when they talk, I had Kelly Rowland talk about it, they always tiptoeing around Destiny Child reuniting. That's the real reason behind it then.
Well, like I say, B don't want to pay her daddy, I'm sure. Or Jay may not want her to pay her daddy, or whatever, however that works. And then you got the potential of the Tillman estate coming back and disputing that there ever was a contract signed.
Okay, right. Now we're going to go and ask a few questions. A few questions. Some things you read or you see over the internet via YouTube. You're the man who would know best about this. So we're going to call it conspiracy theory, rumors, and the rest.
Okay.
1. Kelly Rowland's father is Matthew Knowles. True or false?
False. False.
Why?
Well, Matthew and Kelly, Doris, they didn't know each other until the groups formed. So Kelly is nowhere Matthew's child.
Okay.
Not even close.
Good. 2.
Yeah, so here's the thing.
Okay.
When Kelly's mom left and moved to Georgia because of financial reasons, she did not leave Kelly with Matthew Knowles or Tina Knowles. She left Kelly with Andretta Tillman. And it wasn't until later on, and we were starting to have rehearsal at the Knowles house, that they talked Andretta into letting Kelly move over there. So that's how Kelly got there.
Ah, now the story is different. They're saying of the
Yeah.
internet and say that Kelly Rowland was with Tina Knowles, and that's why she's like considered more of a mother to Kelly than Kelly's mother herself.
Well, I with Doris being deceased,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And you know, I wouldn't dare to. I mean, I love Kelly and Doris and Tina, and I'm not going to step in that one.
Okay. All right, I can understand that, obviously, respectfully. Okay, next one. Beyonce's father is not Matthew Knowles, but somebody else. Okay, these are rumors that are on the internet, and you are a man that we don't talk to, so I'm asking you.
Listen, you're going to have to ask Tina that one. I'm not going down that tree either. I have no idea. No, sir. I have no idea.
Well,
to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, he is the father.
Okay, let's talk contracts. Let's talk contracts, and let's talk close to home. Again, these are rumors or stories. That in terms of contracts, that people sign contracts and they're life contracts, and that they have to perform for the rest of their lives, and they're stuck to contracts forever. Is this true? And are there contracts like that out there, or is this all rumors?
I'm sure there are contracts like that. I've never encountered one. We did not operate in that fashion. I mean, the contracts that we had created was either we performed and got the artist what we promised them, or they were free to go after 6 months, a year, something like that. But, you know, if we performed and did everything, the contracts could, of course, be extended as long as we were performing and meeting the terms of the contract, and the artists were getting what they felt they had coming.
In terms of the music industry today, particularly with black artists, the hip hop industry, a lot of people say that it's not in our favor anymore. We're singing things and we're saying things that are quite destructive and not a proper representation of how our community should be. What are your thoughts about that?
What are you saying? Talking about the music and
Yes.
Well, I mean, now this is me 100%.
Okay.
Now, what is happening is it's basically the industry is taking over the genre of music. They're telling you because you have like iHeartRadio and things of this nature, you know, and they're going to play who they're going to play, and they're now telling R&B artists that, like a Chris Stapleton or your guy from London, you know, they are what R&B is. You know, people like I was just reading an article last year about Stephanie Mills, where she was complaining, saying that, you know, they won't even play her new songs on the radio, but they'll play Sam Harris, they'll play Chris Stapleton, who's a country singer, that this is R&B. So now the whole thing is they're moving away from, you know, traditional R&B soulful type artists and things of that nature. And, you know, kind of like they did with jazz, when, you know, jazz was more your Herbie Hancock and all that for a minute. Then Noah Jones came in, and then, you know, that kind of trended away and things of that nature. So I think it's truly happening, and you're going to have only your few that, you know, you're going to be able to enjoy, like a Bruno Mars, who's going to Matthew. He's light skinned, but, you know, he's keeping it true to the sound. And that's what the problem is that these artists are not learning how to play music. You know, and if you're a one horse pony, then that's what you're going to be. You know, if you don't know how to create the music and make the music, then, you know, you can't complain that after you have your one hit that they're not playing you on the radio anymore. You got to be able to produce the hits. And, you know, like I was in the interview, I was just like Beyonce. I say, hey, be the truth. Because look, the new song that they're doing with DJ Khaled, and Jay-Z rapped through the whole song. And I was sitting there and my son said, listen to this. And then B comes on. And I was like, what Jay-Z even get on the track for? If he gonna let the girl out rap him like that? You know? So, you know, I'm like, you know, B's the truth. I mean, and artists got to raise their game. You know, they're not going to play you. You're not going to be that breakthrough artist unless, and then you got the gatekeeper factor too. So the industry is not going to ever let there be another No Limit or all of those little small labels like that popped up and made all that money. That's not going to happen again. So they got their gatekeepers, the Jay-Z's, the P. Diddy's and everything. So when the artists come up, urban artists come up, they grab them, swallow them up, load him on a bunch of with a bunch of other artists where they're ripping his money apart. So a new artist can come and probably have a 10 album song, but he'd have, you know, 8 other people on there. So that's cutting his money down. You know, yeah, he's richer than he was when he first went in, but you know, it's not like you know, back in the day when Prince came and did his old album and he got all the money because he played every instrument and everything. Nobody can do that nowadays. Maybe Bruno.
Do you feel it is harder to sell a dark-skinned group than a light-skinned group? And if so, why so? And if you had a dark-skinned group, what would you do?
Well, I'll use the analogy of simple. Me growing up, I used the Jackson 5 and the Osmond. The Jackson 5 had roughly 3 albums of nothing but hits. The Osmond had one song, One Bad Apple Don't Spoil a Whole Bunch of Girls. And that sold a lot more than the other album that the Jacksons had. So you got, society is society. You can't change that. And you're going to have your predetermined mindsets anyway, where you're either going to listen or you're not. And see, the great thing about the old days, you could go and take a artist that was blue-black and
for those who don't know what blue-black means, is like really black.
Yeah, really black, like your curtain back there. You know, you could take a dark-skinned artist, and as long as she could sing or he could sing, it didn't matter, because what they would do, they just put an album cover with flowers on it or something, and then it wasn't until you went to the show who you realized the artist was. Now, because of this ready-baked media, it's like, okay, I want to be on YouTube, I want to be seen, and all this like that. And, you know, people are going to have their prejudice of you or not. They're going to like you if you're Justin Bieber look-alike, or you can have a better voice than Beyonce and be 300 pounds. They're never going to buy you. So, you know, and what would I do? Second question, what would I do if I have a dark-skinned group? I'd do the same thing I had if I had a light-skinned group. Because the bottom line, the music is what's going to win. You know, I wouldn't be in such a hurry to actually put video out, you know, of the actual artist. We had an artist that had like a real bad skin disease, and he could sing his butt off. So we did a video with a little mask and different stuff on him. Nobody ever saw him. So they didn't know he had this horrible skin disease. Well, when they came to the show, he removed his mask, but the voice kept him there, you know, because they had fallen in love with the singing. So you have to be careful with, you know, how you're going to do that and how you pursue it.
How effective do you think shows like The Voice and X Factor are, and are they helping the industry or are they causing more damage to the industry?
Well, like, to me, The Voice, I think it's the beginning of it started good. But if you're going to judge by the voice, judge by the voice, because the voice then turns into, oh, she's more attractive than this guy, or I don't like the way he looked. It becomes as well as the voice, it becomes a how do you look pageant. So I think if they would just do the voice, or if a show came, here's somebody an idea, show came where you just do the voice and you never see the artist until it ends.
That'd be good.
Then the artist would truly be, you would fall in love with the artist, and it wouldn't be about how they look.
Okay. In closing, let's talk about contracts, and how do you avoid yourself from the snares of, let's say, contracts that, inverted commas, you sell your soul. Talk to me about that.
Well, I don't think, I don't know. Now, I don't know what they're doing signing with labels nowadays, because things have drastically changed.
Okay.
But for me, if I was an independent artist, I wouldn't sign a contract. I mean, there are too many avenues you're going to have to work a little harder and learn a little bit more and do a little bit more, but there's too many avenues to get you out there. You can sell your stuff on iTunes just like Beyonce does, Spotify and all those things. Now, you won't get as much airplay and things until you start to get popular, but I wouldn't sign a contract. Because, I mean, now you think about it, what is the actual labels doing for you now? Because right nowadays, most of the songs that come out are recorded in home studios. They're then mastered, maybe even online or somewhere. So they got a finished product. So then now they're going to distribute your music when people don't even really buy CDs anymore. They're downloading. And so the same thing that you could do. So what purpose do they serve? And then, other than some promotion?
TV and
okay.
concerts.
Who?
TV and concerts.
Concerts, once you get on tour, you get a booking agent. That's going to take care of that anyway. So, I mean, artists nowadays, that's why Beyonce and Jay-Z back on the road. You're not making much money at home too much, with some streaming, yes, but not as much as you will on the road, and that you get to keep everything.
Fair enough. 3 key points to any want-to-be artists. Your top 3 tips to them listening now.
I would say be original, and I tell my kids all the time, God made only one you, and can't nobody beat you being you. Now, you can be a good imitation of somebody else, but can't nobody beat you being you. So be original. Secondly, I would say learn today's system, and don't be afraid to go learn how to upload your own music to iTunes, how to receive your money or get CDs and different things, CD Baby and all those. Go learn. And most importantly, stay true to the craft, and don't be I would say, a computer musician.
So
that would be it.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about the book and the documentary.
Okay. So the book, The Making of a Child of Destiny, the Andretta Tillman story, we have it on paperback and it's on hardback. And the hardback has a young Beyonce on the cover, and it's a kid's version because with the adult version, because of the way we were back then, and Andretta, we had a way of work with words. We had to kind of take some of the explicitity out of the actual young adult version. So we did that. Then the documentary, like I say, we just released it a couple weeks ago, getting great reviews on it. I think a lot of people were shocked that, they were expecting it to just be another Beyonce type documentary, but we went in detail to tell a lot of truths and dispel a lot of rumors, like the origin of the name Destiny Child, where that came from, and things of that nature. So,
okay, and how do people get to pick up the books and the?
So the book is at Barnes and Noble and all your bookstores, and on Amazon. And the documentary is you can stream it on TV on Amazon Direct, or you can buy the DVD, the video, for the DVD version on Amazon. And then we also have it streaming on Vimeo, and we'll be adding it to, Netflix and a couple other outlets soon. And like I say, we're finished with the screenplay, and we're in talks and looking for some feedback from the industry of not knowing where we're going to actually start filming, but we've met with investors and things like that are interested in funding the actual story of the true story of Destiny Child. And so we're excited. We're excited. We with a little train that could, we've come a long way from our first interview a couple of years ago.
Absolutely, we have indeed. One final point. Tell us something that we didn't already know or we don't know, and an exclusive.
That we don't know about what?
I don't know. Something that you know that I don't know or I haven't asked you about, or you've been wanting to tell me. Just something. Top of your head.
Something you don't know that you should know is that if you think the book and the documentary was juicy, wait for the movie. Yeah.
Kenny Moore.
That one, no holds bars.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Kenny, for a fantastic interview. And you shouldn't wait till once a year to do interviews. You've got to be on more regular.
Will do. And I love what you guys are doing with the show, and much kudos to you guys.
Thank you so much. Once again, everybody.
Thank you.
Kenny Moore, thank you so much.